Hello again, welcome to the Memoir channel. My name is Nikki Smart, and today I'm going to be interviewing Mike de la Rocha about his memoir, Sacred Lessons, Teaching My Father How to Love. So for me, it wasn't really a memoir, it's almost like a self-help book, and it's just packed full of beautiful golden nuggets of wisdom. It's such a gentle, loving book. Mike de la Rocha is an artist, he's a musician, and he's an advocate for change. He is, in fact, an influential, award-winning change maker. I mean, they're saying he's, voice of a generation, and he's really making an impact. He has a business, I think he has several businesses, we'll ask him, but one of them is a coffee shop in Pasadena in Los Angeles that employs people that were formerly incarcerated. So he's doing these beautiful things out there in the world. And the book is about how to, teaching my father how to love. And this was about how there's that toxic masculinity where, real men don't cry, and how that really affected him as a child, and how he always wanted to hear his father say, "I love you." So anyway, it's beautiful. So let's go talk to Mike and find out a little bit more. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the Memoir channel.
Hi, it's so grateful to be here. I just
Uh,
noticed your Buddha on the floor, so I'm even
I
more
have a,
excited.
I have a Buddha. So I was just reading your book, and I was going through a bit of a rough patch, and I got to say, it was just so soothing and lovely. It's so gentle and loving, and I was just loving it. So I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
say that.
Okay.
But for everyone, just tell them sort of briefly what was the purpose of you writing this book?
Yes. So I wrote a book called Sacred Lessons, Teaching My Father How to Love. The catalyst was I unexpectedly lost my father 10 years ago. He passed
Mhm.
away, and it just led me on this journey to try to understand what were the conditions that led to my dad dying prematurely. And when I
Mhm.
started to really unpack it in the layers, I realized that I had inherited the same kind of patterns that led to my dad having an unhealthy lifestyle, and namely, not knowing how to ask for help, thinking that we had to subscribe to this preconceived notion of what a man is, always tough, never asking for help, emotionally distant and silent. And those things ultimately led to him leaving, and I wanted to just live longer for my kids, frankly. And
Right.
heal the patterns that I inherited from him, he had inherited from my grandfather, and so forth and so on. So
Yeah. I mean, it was quite amazing to me because I guess that's not really my world. So,
yeah.
some of the stuff really, I was like, wow, really? And one of them was when your dad was in hospital and
Mm.
you were worried to hold his hand in case you look
Mhm.
gay or what other people would think of you, and you weren't like being strong enough. And I'm like, that's amazing that it's so deeply ingrained, right?
It's deeply ingrained. This is someone like I am, I try my best to always be a student of life and have my heart be as compassionate and wide open as possible to all identities. And even in that moment, it was really telling for me, like my dad's going into surgery, and all that really mattered was my connection with him, but yet I'm worried about how I would be perceived from the outside world.
Yeah,
And that's just like the insidiousness of these systems or patriarchy, frankly, that
absolutely.
I couldn't, literally in that most tender moment for him and for I still held his hand, which was awkward in itself. Like,
Hmm.
like we're not accustomed to physical touch like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
these things are very embedded in all of us.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, he never showed any physical affection towards you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you mentioned the five languages of love,
Mm.
and and I mean, it sounds like he loved you very much. He just didn't quite know how to voice it.
Yeah, totally not. I just got back from an incredible 4 day event called Raisado in Aspen, Colorado, and
Hmm.
Latinx leaders from across the globe. And I had the opportunity, the privilege to speak there. And I will say the most common response that I got when I was done speaking was this same thing. I knew my father loved me, but he
Mm.
didn't have the language, the vocabulary to say it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, which I do, is like the overcompensation, if you will, which is
Yeah.
us telling our own children and my son, like, I love
Yeah.
him multiple times a day.
I love
Like,
you. I love you. I love you. I love
yeah. And so there's never a doubt on that side. But in my suffocating him than too much, you know?
Right, right. But I mean, I love that when you said something about, parenting is a gift and it's
Yeah,
also incredibly difficult, but it forces you to dig deeper into yourself to see why treat your child a certain way,
right.
because those lessons automatically, that inner voice or whatever, those teachings from way back when can sometimes
Yeah,
get in the way. Yeah,
for sure. And then,
yeah.
my belief system is that children choose their parents
Hmm.
as they come into this world knowing what we need to learn still. And so they know what buttons to press and everything else,
Oh, I
So,
love, I love that. Yes,
yeah.
that's lovely. Um, what do you think it is that made you so thoughtful? And I mean, so that you're really focusing inward. You're saying like, I want to make sure that I'm looking at my part in the
Yeah.
problem, and you're obviously living very consciously and carefully. But what do you think made you be like that?
I would definitely say my parents, my
Hmm.
parents are both teachers. My mom has been still is a teacher at Head Start for over 50 years, and my father's a community college professor. But I have to say the women in my life who have poured so much into me. I'm a mama's boy through and through. Like you
Hmm.
get that from the book, and my wife, like they hold me lovingly accountable, and like I'm open enough to receive that.
Right.
So like even this is a book about a father and son as a through line, right? But
Hmm.
it's really about relationships, and it's really also untangling like gender and race. Those are constructs
Yep.
also.
Yep.
So to me, I'm really talking about energy and how all of us embody both feminine and masculine energies.
Hmm.
It's just the way that the society we live in gives preference to one over the other.
Right.
And, that's why I'm a big advocate for all of us learning who we are culturally. Like, what's your ancestral lineage? Because the further back you go, you'll see that we venerated two-spirited folks or
Hmm.
non-binary folks. It wasn't
Hmm.
this kind of political divide, if you will, about identity this and identity that. It was just that we loved you as a person.
Yeah.
And so that's been my own challenge, but also in talking about the book is yeah, this is about us as, at least for me as a cis straight male, but it's really about our relationships and how do we honor those
Yeah, I
relationships.
mean, it encompasses an enormous amount. You kind
Yeah,
of start here and then you sort
yeah,
of move out and out and out and out. And
yeah,
it's like, and I mean, I got by the end, your message really is you want a better world. You want a
yeah,
better way for people to function. You want a more loving, gentle environment. And I think with all the stuff that's going on right now, that's incredibly necessary. Yeah,
yeah.
we need
I
to.
will say I've been blessed the last 2.5 months, 3 months,
Hmm.
where I've been traveling the country, touring the book. And, I've spoken to over 5,000 people. And I will tell you this, I haven't gone into a city, whether it's urban, rural, Midwest, South, East Coast, West Coast, where I haven't found like, met a man who wasn't in pain, or I
Right.
haven't met a community that was in grief.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing is, systems want us to think that this is an isolated event or only I feel this way, when the truth is we're in the midst of a collective like transition,
Yeah.
collective grief, and
Yeah.
the best medicine for a lot of the loneliness or pain is knowing that you're not alone. And that's what
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that the book is helping to do that. So
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. Would you mind reading us a part from your book if you have
yeah, for
something?
sure.
Let's see if I can
Um,
put you on full view. I want to put you.
when you were reading it, was there a chapter that stuck out to you?
Oh, no, there was just little gems all over the show that I took
Yeah,
out and noted.
yeah.
And I mean, there was the one thing that I loved when your dad was playing the Neil Diamond CD.
Um,
Oh, that one got me. I was just going to start crying in the coffee shop. I'm like, "Wah."
we could read that one. So I'll read then your chapter. You want to do that one?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So to set this up, this is Christmas Eve after everyone had left my parents' house, and
Mhm.
I was putting my children to sleep and making sure all the lights were off. And so this is that. Later that night, after all the festivities were done, and I was helping wash the dishes and clean up the house so my mom wouldn't have to do it all by herself in the morning, I made my way upstairs to get ready for bed. My family was sleeping in my old bedroom with our children on an open air mattress and Claudia and me on the bed. Once everyone was in their pajamas and ready to call it a night, I decided to go around the house one last time to make sure all the lights were turned off. As I walked down the stairs, I noticed that the living room light was on. Not only that, I heard some music faintly playing. Slowly, I tiptoed from the stairs to the kitchen so as not to disturb whatever was happening downstairs. As I quietly turned the corner, I noticed my father all by himself in his recliner and recognized the lyrics to one of his favorite Neil Diamond songs. But I got an emptiness deep inside, and I've tried, but it won't let me go. Now I'm not a man who likes to swear, but I never cared for the sound of being alone. Hearing Neil Diamond's voice didn't shock me, but I witnessed something I never thought I would see. Here is my father, all by himself in the dead of night, thinking that no one else was awake. Here was a man who gave so much of himself for others, who defied societal expectations and judgment, only able to express himself because he thought he was all alone. Here was the most important man in my life, my father, who I saw crying for the first time. Suddenly, I heard him sing the chorus of the song with utter pain in his voice, and my heart sank even further as he began to cry harder. I am, I said, to no one there, and no one heard at all, not even the chair. Seeing my father in such a vulnerable state brought me an immense amount of joy as well as heartache. Now, crying softly in the distance myself, I heard my father utter the last lines of the song. I am, I said, I am, I cried. Just a few years earlier, my Nana Guka, my grandmother, passed away in the same room where I was now watching my father break down. The day that my grandmother died, I did see some tears in my father's eyes, but he wouldn't let me see him cry outright. However, in that moment, alone, not knowing that I was there, my father could finally let his emotions out. My father was finally able to be free. My father was finally able to release his pent up pain and simply cry. I didn't know what to do. I just froze. I remember thinking, should I say something and disrupt this moment, or do I quietly go back upstairs? I was truly lost and didn't know what to do. In hindsight, I wished I could turn back time because I would have done things completely differently. As the song ended and I saw my father try to compose himself, I waited in the shadows so he wouldn't know that I was watching him. After a couple minutes, I slowly walked into the kitchen, turned on the rest of the lights, and said, Papa, are you okay? Caught off guard, my father quickly wiped his eyes and said, I'm fine, mijo. I'm just listening to the CDs that you gave me. Wanting to make small talks, my father wouldn't feel embarrassed. I responded, That's pretty good CDs, huh? You now have all your favorite Neil Diamond songs. Yes, I do, mijo. Thank you. Listening to Neil Diamond makes me really emotional. I was shocked because this was one of the few times my father admitted how he was feeling. So I took a chance and asked, Why does listening to Neil Diamond make you feel so emotional, Papa? Clearing his throat, he replied, I guess I can really relate to his lyrics. I feel like he's writing for all of us who are immigrants, all of us who don't feel welcome, all of us who just want a better life for our families. And after a short pause, he said, I just feel like he's talking to me. I think I'll stop right there. So,
Mm.
um,
Yeah, no, it was lovely, but I actually thought it was the next part where you tell him you don't have to cry, and then you regretted it so much because, yeah.
um, yeah, it was,
It just was a knee-jerk thing to say. I mean, I know because it's,
Yeah.
kind of what
Um,
people say.
well, you know what?
Yeah,
Let me just read it.
yeah,
Um, and after a short pause, he said, I just feel like he's talking to me. And then I said, who would have ever thought that a Jewish boy from Brooklyn, New York,
yeah,
would have penetrated the heart of a puro Mexicano from Chihuahua, Mexico? Wanting to laugh, but still too emotionally moved by the song, my father couldn't control himself any longer, and he started to cry once again, but only this time in front of me. In unfamiliar territory, I went up to my father and put my hand on his shoulder. He just sat there with his face in his hands, crying and trembling ever so softly. It's all right, Papa. You don't need to cry, I said almost automatically. Even though I didn't want to say those words, they just came out of my mouth, given that that was the immediate response that I got anytime my father saw me crying. I guess it must have been instinctual for me to do the same. Despite me wanting to tell my father that it was okay to cry, despite me wanting to tell him that it was okay to show his emotions, despite me wanting to tell him that he didn't have to feel ashamed or embarrassed, I just stood there quietly without saying another word. Thank you, mijo. I'm okay. I was just thinking about Mexico and life, and I know, Papa, I interrupted. It wasn't that I didn't want my father to share more, but I was caught off guard. I was unprepared and felt unequipped to handle such a deeply personal and intimate moment with my father. So I ended the conversation and I did what I was trained to do. I ran away from a beautiful moment that was deeply personal and vulnerable for both of us.
yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, it's so
That was the
beautiful.
part.
It's so beautiful that you
Yeah,
recognize it, you
yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the beauty of it.
yeah.
Okay, so um, I mean, I read a bit about you, so I know that you're sort of an advocate for change and you're
Yeah.
involved in a whole. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, um, my father was very instrumental in the Chicano movement and
Hmm.
dedicated his life to the community. At an early age, my parents taught me the importance of giving back, and I've spent my entire life dedicated to making this world a better place. And I think getting into the age that I'm getting into, and even reading that passage, and it brings up so many emotions because the real work, the hard work, is that internal work. And it's that work with the relationships that matter the most to you in your life.
Hmm.
So I'm really recognizing that all this kind of like macro external organizing I'm doing, I got to keep doing that. But we have to dedicate as much, if not more, time to those relationships in our home and in
Right.
our hearts. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. I could talk to you about, I don't know, immigration or criminal legal system. I'll be all gung ho. But then I read a passage about me remembering the moment where my dad's crying and I get emotional. And in
Hmm.
that process, I'm breaking down all the systemic things in real time.
Absolutely, isn't it? I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So I mean, so with this book, I mean, I
Yeah.
love that you're out touring with it now so that you can actually go and have these talks in the
Right.
community, right? So
Right.
this is now sort of a platform you're creating. Um, because my thought was, it's not that you so much want to be an author, it's
Yeah.
more that you want to be this change maker, right? You really want people to get it. You want to be able
Yeah.
to help,
Yeah.
yeah, teach. So,
Yeah. I think it's, this whole journey has been a awakening of like, the older I get, the more I see how do I say it, that everything makes sense. Like, why
mhm,
was I always reading books at an early age? Why did I go to college and study English? Like,
yeah,
I've always wanted to be a writer
mhm,
that felt like maybe didn't felt the confidence enough to do it or saw it as separate to the organizing or separate to, and now I see it as one. Like,
it's absolutely one, yeah.
yeah, so it's now I'm not bifurcating as much. And I guess that's the process of re-indigenizing or decolonizing my own self, where I'm like,
Mhm,
it's all feeding into one. I can change the world through my words. I can change the world through my
absolutely.
activism, and And that's, I feel and I know that all of us are brought into this world with very specific gifts and talents that we're supposed to share.
Mm-hmm.
And too much of our society beats us up when we want to share or when we want to be our eccentric or authentic selves. Like, no, 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 you can't
Yeah.
look that way. You got to be like this, or you
Yeah.
can't do that because, X, Y, and Z. And this has really been a process of accepting who I am as multiple things.
Right. No, and I mean, it really comes through that you've thought very deeply about all of these
Yeah.
different, things that are coming. And I mean, also the racism. And I mean, there was another thing there that kind of got me by surprise. So, yeah, I wrote down so many because they were all quite lovely. Oh, this one. It's hard to love myself when the standard of beauty, the standard of greatness, the standard of who's considered normal is white.
Mm,
Oh, no, yeah, that's horrible.
mm,
And I mean, being white, I don't get to experience that feeling, right?
right,
Because
right, right,
I'm normal. And
right.
and that's a really weird thought to think that. I mean, I know how many immigrants there are in America, that all of them are feeling like your dad. I am,
Yeah,
I said it, to no one there, and no one can see you, and no one. I mean, that's huge.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I was very intentional of even how I wrote the book. I wanted it to be accessible. So maybe you didn't have a college degree or even a high school diploma, but you could still understand the feeling and the
Hmm.
emotion behind it.
Hmm.
And, because empathy is what I'm really trying to get to this place where I might not share someone's experience, but I can try to learn from it. And from a spiritual perspective, once we see that if I'm hurting, therefore then you are hurting. So it is incumbent upon me to do everything I can to lower the hurt or minimize or eliminate it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And at the end of the day, on this issue that we're dealing with right now, front and center in America or globally, is we're all land-based people from somewhere else. So therefore, all of our ancestors migrated, unless you're
Right.
Native American, whether it
Right.
was enslaved or in bondage or whether in your own will, like people come here for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like just remembering, like that's why I think like peeling back the layers of the onion, like who are you and who is your family? And then once we start to get that,
Yeah.
then you're like, wow, we are in the same boat right now, even though we think we might be in different ones.
Yeah. And I mean, what's happening right now in Los Angeles and well, everywhere, I guess, in America is kind of shocking. I mean, it's quite terrifying and horrifying. And I'm in Portugal, so I'm sort of watching it from afar, going, I can't believe what is happening.
Yeah.
So I think that your voice is more important now than ever
Oh, thank you.
because
Yeah, we
yeah.
were it was supposed to come out last year. And
Hmm.
I, thank you to Regala Press and Simon and Schuster because I was very adamant, like, we need to hold this book because regardless of what happens in November of last year, everyone's going to need healing and everyone's going to need
Yeah.
reprieve and
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And, we're living in a time of radical change. Like the advent, not even the advent anymore, just AI is here. Economies are collapsing and shifting.
Yeah.
We're living in authoritarianism in the United States. Who would ever thought in 2025 we would be
Yeah.
saying this? And that's
Yeah.
just the truth. And so the more we can accept what it's here and rebuild or build something different,
Hmm.
uh, the quicker we can get to this sense of like everyone feeling home and welcome and safe.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've done a fabulous job on it. You really have. How long did that take you to write?
I get asked this a lot. It was actually a 7-year process because I wrote a whole different book before.
Hmm.
I actually, so much of history is, we think history is like these individuals, right? Which it is true. And there's so many folks that are in the history books that whose stories and sacrifice allowed us to even have this conversation. And my
Hmm.
father, like many, was one of those, and he always wanted to write a book. So I started interviewing his roommates from college and people close to him, and I would painfully listen to these interviews he did.
Yeah.
And I started writing a book in his voice. That book was actually just called Teaching My Father How to Love. And it was him, the last 5 days alive in the hospital bed, reflecting on his life.
Hmm.
And I got an amazing agent. We went to sell that book, and no one bought that book. And in hindsight, I realized that no one bought the book because that was his story to tell, not mine.
Right.
How would I know in his voice? But I really needed to tell my story, and I was hiding
Hmm.
behind his voice because I wasn't I
Right.
wasn't dealing with the grief. So I
Yeah.
started going to therapy and all this other things, and that's the book that came out. So it was kind
Right.
of like I couldn't repurpose what I had written already, but I did give it homage by the sacred lessons, teaching my father how to love, so that
Yeah.
that bridge between him and I.
Yeah. No, I mean you did very well. Um, so now that this is out, and maybe this is too soon to be asking this, but what are you thinking for happening next? Like,
Yeah,
what's calling you now?
yeah. Well, there's a lot of big projects I'm not fully at liberty to talk about just yet, but I will say that I want to pour more into the book because it has a
Hmm.
lot more life in it,
Sure,
and
sure. It's just
um,
started. Yeah.
yeah, it just started in June. But I'm also going to leverage it to have these larger conversations about these issues you and I have been talking about
Hmm.
to like a larger global audience in different formats. And so I'm excited to share as the months and the weeks come by, like different things that are inspired by the book.
Hmm.
One thing that I know, just like traveling so much, is I get asked a lot about, is there a workbook or something to accompany the book for myself to
Oh,
journal? And like
that's
prompts about like, hey, you opened up this conversation in my own heart, like, but I need to dive in deeper. What thoughts do you have? So we've been working on that for like actually since June, really. So there's like different products and other things to
yeah.
just
That
provide.
is a great idea because there's so much there that you do need, to go over it again, and it'd be lovely to have little bits taken out, and this makes you think about it. I mean, there's this other thing what you said here. This was about, the patriarchy thing where you said, I've been forced to
Mm,
believe that conflict in a relationship is never about me, but rather about what the other person is doing wrong.
mm,
Society and literally everything around me tells me that women, and everything else for that matter, are
mm,
for men to benefit from, control, and exploit. And
mm.
I went, wow, I mean, that is a big sentence right there. And
Yeah.
I love that it's coming from a man. It's
Mm,
like good
mm.
because women see this thing quite clearly, but it's rare that, men do.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, it's also by design that men aren't supposed to look at it that way.
exactly.
This entire conversation is really about power, who has
Yeah.
it and who doesn't. And
Yeah.
for it to sustain itself, men have to not ask those questions for it can continue to operate the way it does, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, that alone is a huge thing to unpack, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The book is full of these just really words of wisdom. And,
Mm,
and it's written at such a nice pace that it gives this like soothing feeling
mm,
to it when you're
thank
reading it.
you.
But yeah, I think a workbook's a brilliant idea. So,
Yeah. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff I'm excited about, and I've been journaling the whole time to see what will probably be a next offering, if you will, to the
hmm.
world.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm really excited to dig deeper and continue to just explore this idea of like intuition.
Hmm.
Um, read the book, so my father comes back to me very consistently as a monarch butterfly.
Hmm.
And when I'm struggling with a question or an issue, or when I just want to feel him physically here, even though he isn't, to no end, he comes.
Hmm.
I feel, the unseen world is as real as the seen world. If
Yeah,
we believe that, and we like, the more we
we have to be
like
open to it.
here. Exactly.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah. And I feel, and I feel like we're just shifting right now. I think that's why everything is so, at the moment, so
Yeah.
crazy because we're actually shifting into a more gentle. I think
Yes,
we're
I
we're
agree.
here breaking all that nonsense down so that we can get to what we're actually supposed to be.
Exactly. And
So,
that's exactly right. And so even yesterday or a few days ago, as I share in the book, every time there's a new moon or a full moon, I
mhm,
pull oracle cards and try to be just very mindful of sitting with my ancestors and sitting with my father and just being open. And that very act of doing what I just shared, or the very act of what you just said,
mhm,
you have to surrender and let go of control.
mhm.
And that's opposite of what capitalism really is about.
Yeah.
Capitalism is about control, and it is about someone has more and someone has to have less. And when you're present and open, those dynamics don't exist. So, like, I agree with you 100%. We are birthing something that has been prophesized, and what we know in our core of core is
Hmm.
how, because I believe in humanity. I believe that if given a choice, everyone's going to want to feel loved, belong,
Yeah.
connected. Like
Yes.
the fear thing is can move someone in a short amount of time, but at some point you just crack and realize that's a lie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I think, loneliness is probably some sort of epidemic right now. I mean, you have to,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So where can people find out about you? You have a website?
yeah. So you can go to sacredlessons.com.
Okay, perfect.
That's where you could purchase the book anywhere you buy books, whether it's Barnes and
Okay.
Noble and independent bookstore, Amazon.
Okay. And
But
then at
on the
Sacred
web,
Lessons, it'll say where you're having your next events.
correct.
And okay,
Yeah. So all
perfect.
the different events, book tours, stops, things like that
Okay.
are on the website, videos, press. And really, I'm excited to do is be a part of multiple communities that exist,
Hmm.
um, and build a community of those who are interested or were inspired by the book. Like, how do we connect on a larger level?
Yeah.
My political home, I was reminded yet again this past weekend, was the Zapatistas, which were the indigenous folks of southern Mexico.
Hmm.
And so, Comandante Marcos has this beautiful quote where he says, "We are building a world where many worlds can exist."
Hmm.
I want to just help build one of those worlds in a
Yeah.
constellation of others. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like that at the end of the book, you had a whole lot of links,
yeah,
where people could go. And I just looked at one of them and it was How Men Cry. Is that what it
uh-huh,
was?
uh-huh,
And the very first thing it says there, 100 men commit suicide on a daily basis in
yeah,
America. And I'm like, oh my
yeah,
God. So, yeah, I feel like this is very
yeah,
necessary and very much needed, this
it is,
connection.
it
And
is.
yeah.
And I want to, I really want to acknowledge and thank so many incredible organizations in men that have been doing this work for a long time,
Hmm.
this work of healing and holding space and circle.
Yeah.
Because I think, the rates of, like you said, suicide or depression or loneliness are as high as they've ever been. And I always say that is part of the story that we have to address. But the other half of this story is there's so many men that are healing those generational wounds and
Hmm.
holding and kissing their children more and being more emotionally expressive with their partners and going to spaces with other men and like seeing that they're not alone. And so, more than anything, I want men to know like we are not alone. There are spaces that do exist, and
Yeah.
it's my job and others to help like amplify so you can find it.
Yeah. No, it's lovely. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, in Portugal, it's very, very much a patriarchy here as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
it's a global. This is not It's not
yeah,
a US thing,
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
global thing for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and when you were talking earlier, people are very weary of using like the term fascism, for example, right?
Hmm.
If you study history and you study what happened in Nazi Germany, it was a global phenomenon that was happening. And that's
Right.
what's happening right now. There's a global rise in extreme ideologies and ways of thought.
Yeah.
And like kind of you say, it's like I feel it's like the last breath of it, is it's crumbling. Like
It is.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever your political realm or
Yes,
things are crumbling.
I
What
agree.
bursts next is up to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's hope it's something beautiful. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Nikki. I really appreciate
Yeah,
the conversation and the ability to
absolutely.
heal even through this
Yeah.
dialogue. So thank you very
Oh,
much.
you're very, very welcome. And thank you for chatting with me today. And all the best of luck. And
Thank
I'll
you.
put your website on there. And
Okay,
if you write anything else, come back.
I will for sure. All
All
right.
right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. All
Okay.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.